G'day, welcome to Curl's Corner. This is unfortunately a video that I was not terribly keen on making. A couple of days ago we had a 42-degree day, which is the second of the season. We managed to dodge the first one, but anyway, it knocked off all the trout that we had up in this tank. Unfortunately, we hadn't quite knocked them for the table yet. They weren't quite big enough. We had a bit of trouble getting feed through the season, and yeah, a few other things sort of happening with them. But anyway, the warm weather's come through and knocked them out. That was Thursday. Yesterday was Friday, which was another 42-degree day, and then today was 35 degrees, so not a great deal cooler, and we probably wouldn't have made them through until now anyway. But rather than let them go to waste, I've pulled them out of this tank and I've put them up in this bucket over here. I'll run you guys through that shortly. But essentially what I'm going to do is make some fish emulsion out of it rather than letting them go to waste. It is the first time doing any fish emulsion or really making any sort of fertiliser at all, to be honest. But yeah, with any luck, we'll be able to add that into our market garden beds down the bottom, which we are developing. As well as that, I'm also in the process of filming a bit of a wrap up for 2025 and an intro to 2026. So if you haven't already, hit that subscribe button to check out and see what we've been up to and what we are up to. We've had quite a busy year and got quite a lot coming up next year. Hence part of the reason why I haven't had many more videos up is just been too busy doing the work rather than putting the videos out there for them. So stick around for that. Otherwise, I'll run you through the process in a second of getting these fish out and making our fish emulsion. Alright, well, today is one of the not so fun days. We've seen our second day over 40 so far for the year, got up to 42 today. And as you can see, these fellas haven't quite loved it. We've got about 20 floating trout in there. So, rather than let them go to waste, I'm going to try my hand at making a little fish emulsion bucket. So I've got I don't know what that is, probably a 10 litre bucket and another little container to make an airlock out of, and then just a bit of that, I don't know, 4 or 6 mil aquarium air tube. Put them together, see if we can make something work. Unfortunately with these guys, we've been wanting to get them out for the last couple of weeks at least, if not last couple of months. Had a bit of trouble getting fish food for them, and then when it turned up, we haven't quite got it fattened up yet, and yeah, just not hoping to get them done before the weather came in, but obviously didn't quite make it this year, so bit of a stuff up, but these things happen. Anyway, I'll get into it. I'll come back when I've got the end result to have something to look at. Just made a super simple airlock. Just got our bucket with just a tiny bit of hose hanging out, so it's going to sit up in the vapor space at the top. And then I've got some water in our old chocolate tin, sitting most of the way up, and then the bottom of that hose comes down to, yeah, almost the bottom, but not close enough it's going to get clogged up with anything. I'll sit that over there like that. Got it sitting up and over so that there's no low points in that line. I'm just going to fill this bucket up with a fish, and then I'll top it off with water and hopefully have it just underneath the line of where that hose ends up. So we'll fill it up, see how we go. Back over at the makeshift fish emulsion table. Got the fish there with the water in it. I have had a bit of a look in the last sort of half hour or so about fish emulsion. Again, it's the first time I've ever done it, first time I've ever thought I'd need to do it. I was hoping to incorporate them into compost if we've ever had to have fish that don't make it to the table, but we haven't got compost system going yet. So, I've had a quick look. Generally it says to chop the fish up. I'm not going to worry too much about it. Again, they're not massive. They're probably, I don't know, 200 to 300 gram, maybe a bit more each. And I'll just let it sit for a little bit longer. We're not in a massive rush for it, and it's also just a bit of a try and see what happens. Fish are in there. I've got the water level sitting up about there, and that hose is coming down about there. So there's plenty of room there for air. And put that on nice and tight. Might even cut this hose down a little bit. All right, well, I would be lying if I said I was looking forward to this part of the video. I'm about to crack this bucket of fish open to go and put some more bits and pieces in it. I put the fish in here on Thursday. It is now Saturday. Thursday and Friday, as in yesterday, were both 42 degrees, and today is about 35 or just shy of. So pretty warm weather. There's a lot of activity going on in this bucket. You can see it's starting to sort of bellow out there a little bit, as well as bubbling out through our airlock. There is a bit of odour coming out of that airlock as well. It's not horrendous, but it's certainly not delightful. Over the last couple of days, I've had a bit of a look around online to see what else I need for this emulsion, and everything is saying molasses, molasses, molasses. Unfortunately, I can't get molasses at any time soon. So instead of that, I'm going to try and make a bit of makeshift molasses with some golden syrup, a bit of seaweed solution, And also online I've found that a bit of a substitute can be made from some active soil. So I've got some active soil here from our garlic rows. Just went down there and harvested the last of our garlic for the season, if you're interested in checking that out. This stuff's basically got a bit of clay, a bit of compost, a little bit of straw, and while I was out there digging the garlic out, there's plenty of worms in this, as well as a few slaters and other bits and pieces floating around as well. So hopefully that'll make a bit of a start to our bioactivity. As well as that, the water that I've added, as you would have seen, was straight out of the aquaponics. We have got an active colony of bacteria up in that tank, which should hopefully help us out in breaking these fish down. As well as that, I'm going to add a few banana skins. Nothing really to add the process, but we were wanting to make a bit of a potassium, I don't know what you'd call it, a bit of a potassium tea out of these banana skins. So again, had a bit of a look up online, and it seems like it's not going to slow down the process of breaking these fish down. And yeah, going to add a bit more potassium into our fish emulsion anyway. So, wish me luck. I'll crack this thing open and we'll start adding some ingredients. Woo! Well, certainly ain't pleasant, but it's also not quite enough to make me gag. I can see it bubbling away there, and yeah, definitely looks a bit less pleasant than what it smells. Although, as I said, it's certainly not a smell that I would like to go back to. I'll add these bits and pieces in and close it back up again, and we'll see if we can get them fermenting. Righto, let's put this lid back on, see if we can get rid of some of that smell, and hopefully that'll sweeten it up a little bit and won't be too bad next time anyway. Not sure if you can see, but there's a lot more fly activity around here than there was a couple of minutes ago. They've certainly picked up that scent of that open bucket. Anyway, she's closed up now, and with any luck, our additives and a bit of sugar and stuff in there should sweeten that brew up a bit rather than having it as pongy as what it was. All right, well, we've made it to Monday, so a couple more days since doing the last bit of filming. I'm halfway through editing this video, and I have realised that I've left out the part where I was doing the water test. I'm not going to do the full water test again now, but I will do the pH. When I did it on Saturday, the nitrates, nitrites and ammonia were all looking pretty good, but the pH was high. It was off the general pH scale, and I didn't bother doing a high range pH test. I'll do another pH test now. I did add some hydrochloric acid into the system on Saturday after doing that last test. Added a cup or 250 mils, and towards the end of this video, I'll go through that process and doing a bit of a calculation of how much water's in here. And yeah, 250 mil is definitely not too much, so it should hopefully bring it down slowly. You probably have to do that again a couple of times in the next few days. In case anyone's wondering as well why the fish in this system would have died, I'll quickly address that. So essentially, trout like having high levels of dissolved oxygen, and as the water level goes up, the dissolved oxygen goes down. The other issue with warm water is that the warmer the water, the higher the toxicity of ammonia is to fish. It's sort of a bit of a deadly cycle that would have happened, is that once the first fish died from the warm water and the low dissolved oxygen, when the fish die, they emit ammonia. That ammonia would have then sort of spiked up. The toxicity of ammonia and the high temperature and the low dissolved oxygen would have obviously made that toxicity worse for the other fish that are in there. The other thing that ammonia does as well is it increases the biological oxygen demand, or the BOD, and high BOD is toxic as well, or can be toxic. As the biological oxygen demand goes up, essentially what that means is that the biology, or the microbes and everything else that are feeding in the water, they are also absorbing oxygen out of the water, which is in turn putting your dissolved oxygen, or DO, back down. So quite a few things going on there, but essentially warm water no good, cold water is good, for trout anyway. Australian native fish are a little bit less susceptible to the high water temps, but yeah, definitely for trout, they don't like it anything much more than 20 degrees Celsius, and definitely sort of once you get to 23, 24 degrees, it's potentially quite dangerous. It's enough talking for now. I'll do the water test, and yeah, we'll see how it's going. So I haven't got the chart that came with it. It's been misplaced somewhere. But if you have a look on there, you can see the pH tops out at 7.6, and seeing as though ours is more blue than that, pretty safe to say that we are higher than 7.6. So I'm going to add some acid. I'm actually going to add 2 cups of acid today, seeing as though it hasn't really come down that much. Well, as much as I wasn't looking forward to filming this, I am sort of a little bit glad that I have done a water test and found that the pH was quite a bit higher than I was expecting. The system that I have here is probably about 5,000 or 6,000 litres. I've got about 1,500 out in the sump, plus these 4,000 in here. There's another probably 800 in the filter, and then between the two grow beds, probably about another 300 or 400. So I don't know, I can do the maths on the screen, but it's probably, maybe it might be closer to 6,000 litres. Not too concerned about shocking what's in the system, seeing as I've only got the 4 goldfish, which are all quite tolerant to pretty well any changes in environment compared to other fish. I have got the plants, which will all benefit from a bit more acid. Plants generally like it a bit more acidic than 7, whereas your fish generally like it a little bit more alkaline. What I'm going to do though is I'm not going to add the acid straight into the tank where the fish are. Instead, I'm going to open this tap up and get this tank flowing a little bit quicker, and I'm going to add the acid into that one just so that it doesn't give them, you know, a dead spike straight to there. Instead, it's going to go in through here, out through the sump, through the grow beds, and back into the aquaculture side through our bacteria and so forth before it gets into our fish. So if you made it this long, thanks heaps again for joining me. Sorry, it's been a bit of a downer of a video. Keep an eye out for our 2025 wrapped video, which should be coming out pretty stinking soon, hopefully, seeing as it's the end of 2025, and it'll give you a bit of an idea of what we've been up to this year. Had quite a lot happen on the block this year, as well as having a bit of a run through of our plans for next year, including a carport, getting solar and stuff on the house, getting our market garden going, and yeah, a few other projects on the go. So again, thanks heaps for sticking around, and we'll get some acid in, and we'll see you on the next one. Cheers.